US visa versus status. We've been asked the following question. I have a tourist US visa, but I'm planning to study in a US university and will be applying for a student visa. Does that mean that I'm changing my status? I've heard that doing that is very bad. First, let's define what is a visa and what is a status. A visa is a document that allows you to enter the United States with a certain goal. For example, a tourist visa allows you to enter as a tourist. Pretty simple concept. Status is something you receive after you've entered the US with your visa and the border guard has let you in. It is the border guard who makes the final decision on letting you in. Let's say you've entered the US with a tourist visa and have convinced the border guard that you're indeed a tourist. The nice border guard has stamped your passport. That's it. You're in the country with a status of a tourist. Or say you've come to the US with a student visa. You've proven at the border that you're actually going to study, you've shown your invitation from the university and answered all the questions. And then you've got a stamp in your passport. Congratulations, you have a status of a student. While you only have a visa and have not yet arrived in the US and haven't crossed the border, you cannot possibly have a status. So if you, while being outside the US, decide to add a student visa on top of your tourist one, don't wait until the tourist visa expires. Simply apply for a student visa and that's it. It won't constitute a change of status. To sum up, a status is something you receive upon entering the US. Furthermore, a status and a visa durations may not match. For example, visas for Russian citizens can be issued for up to 3 years, and up to 10 years for citizens of Kazakhstan. But if you've come to the US as a tourist, your status will be valid for only 6 months. The stamp in your passport will indicate the date before which you must leave the country. If more than 6 months have passed and you haven't left, your status expires and you automatically become an illegal immigrant. How do you like that? Although technically your visa is still valid. With the student status, it works like this. It's active as long as you're studying, even if the visa is expired. If the study program is over and you don't find another uni within the next 60 days, you have to leave the country even if your visa is still valid. Now let's talk about change in status. Let's say you've come to the US as a tourist but decided to apply to university. You cannot study in a university in the status of a tourist, so you should apply for a change of status to the US Citizenship and Immigration Services. This is just an application for a change of status from a tourist one to a student one. And not getting a visa. You cannot get a US visa while being in the US, but you can apply for a change of status. And then, if USCIS have approved the change of status, you become a student. The tourist visa is stealing your passport, but you can't use it anymore. If you leave the US, you won't be allowed back in with your tourist visa, for you're a student, not a tourist. To get back in the US, you have to apply for a visa corresponding with your status. That is, the F1 visa. But it's not always possible. Why is that? We'll talk later. And remember, we share what we know from experience, from the cases we've encountered over the years of our work. But you can always check the official sources. So, you've come to the US as a tourist, but decided to apply to university or college and change your status from a tourist one to student one. What are the risks? First, there is no guarantee that the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, will approve your change of status. If the change of status would be denied, you have to immediately leave the state. There have been plenty of cases where the tourist visa was cancelled as well. If the change of status is proved, you still don't have a student visa. Or mind you can't get a US visa in the US, and you can't use your tourist visa anymore. Sooner or later, you'll have to get out of the States, perhaps to see your relatives. But will you be able to get back is an open question. To get back to the US and continue your studying, you'll need to apply for a visa corresponding with your student status, and that is F1. 1. Do not mistake it with the racing, it is a type of visa. For that, you'll need to contact the US Embassy. In our expertise, such appeals are not very well met. Why? Let's think together. Because when you're initially entering the US with a tourist visa, you'd never said anything about your intentions to study. On the contrary, you convinced the border guards that you're a tourist, that you simply want to look at the buildings, to drive around LA and Miami and visit Disneyland. But in the end, you're staying in the US for a long time to study. Turns out you're lying. Perhaps when you were applying for a tourist visa, you already known you're going to study and live in the US, but you were hiding it. That's what the visa officer will probably be thinking. A lot of people are denied in situations like that, and it's especially unfortunate if you were almost done with your studying. So, what's the conclusion? If during your tourist trip in the US, put your eyes on a university, get back home, and make an F1 student visa in a proper way, and then go study with a peace of mind. P.S. We only share what we know from experience and based on the many cases we've encountered over the years of our work. And you can always check the official sources. If you're interested in this topic, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to join our Telegram channel and follow us on Instagram. There we post our news every day as well as information on visas, studying and traveling abroad. See ya!